Hey everyone, great to have you back at the Sampleist. My name's Greg, and today we're taking a look at a beautiful library from Fluffy Audio, Zen Garden. Zen Garden is a comprehensive library for the connoisseur of ancient, ambient, soothing sounds and melodies that take you to a place of calming auras, meditative cinematic sounds evocative of an ancient Japanese temple. Zen Garden has over 40 meticulously sampled instruments, including crystal bowls, taiko drums, lyres and harps, breathy wind flutes, gongs, and a gorgeous set of drones and the vocal phrases of Alin and Sylvia. Everything you need for evocative soundscapes, video game sound design, and cinematic textures. Zen Garden requires the full version of Contact. It will not work with the free Contact player. It downloads at 35 gigabytes and unpacks onto your drive at 72. It's currently available from Fluffy Audio for $141.90. Before we jump into today's video, be sure to stick around for my composition and I'll walk you through how I use Zen Garden in its creation. You won't want to miss that. And before we get started, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to The Sampleist so you won't miss the next in our ongoing series in the world of virtual instruments. With that out of the way, let's dive right into the serene world of Fluffy Audio's Zen Garden. And welcome into Fluffy Audio's Zen Garden. So before we kick things off, let's have a quick look at how it's organised. So over in the left-hand contact panel under Fluffy Audio, under the instruments, there are 6 categories: ceremonial, meditation, percussion, strings and plucked, vocals, and winds and breathed. I've loaded up an instance of Koto to start things off with. So let's have a quick listen. So the first thing that you'll notice about this library is a lot of it is ornamental, soft ambient sounds that when you combine them together, they build up a depth of frequencies and styles and textures, and they're really, really beautiful. Very well sampled. So what we have here on the screen, let's have a quick walk through. Quite a simple UI, which is always welcome. With this particular patch, there is a series of sustain alternatives, and tremolo. So we just heard the sustain with the familiar tremolo. And the sustain alt is kind of a slight variant on the sustain, like a legato-ish. Absolutely beautiful, really lovely resonate. That's really ringing in my cans that I've got on at the moment and sounds delightful. As far as the other controls, we have the ability to control the attack and decay, as you'd imagine. Now with a plucked instrument, the attack's going to be quite low, but you can vary the attack. And of course, the decay with no decay and lots of it. There are 3 microphones, close, mid, and far, so you can really bring things straight to the very forefront. Or alternatively, somewhere in the distance. Let's bring down the close mics. I'll come back to the aura and the veil in a moment. You also have the ability to control the velocity of how you strike the keyboard and how it responds. And you can obviously change your reverb settings. And there's a series of different reverb types, but I'm going to leave it on the default long haul for now. The big wheel in the middle if you click on it, allows you to assign your mod wheel to one of the controls available, either none or the aura, the veil, or indeed both the aura and veil. We'll get to that in a moment. Or you can attach it to the attack or the decay. So let's say, for example, I wanted to control the attack. I'll select it there, and it's now pegged to the attack. So let's leave that attack up there for the moment. I'm going to turn it off. Let's return to the aura and veil. The aura and veil are present in most, if not all, of the patches available in Zen Garden. Aura and veil are like different sound textures that you can layer on top of your chosen patch, your sound. So just staying with the koto at the moment. Whoops, let's take it back. Oh, here we go. With the aura, let me just turn up a little. Has a layer pad sound to it. Now the veil likewise is another layer that you can bring in. So let's just have a look at the veil. The veil has a small menu and you can choose from quite a number of different veils or different layers. So for example, you could have bell tree. Or perhaps even layer it with a kalimba. Actually, that's probably not a good choice because it's actually too close to the actual sound itself. What about resonant vines? Let's give it some, there it is. Holding down those notes. Or a telephone. So quite a few options there to add some more colour. So it's more than just the raw sound of the natural instrument. As beautiful as they are, you can add some different layers to add some depth and different colour and variation. So let's have a quick walkthrough of a slight selection, a small selection of what you can. There's about 40 odd different instruments here. I don't think we'll have the luxury of time to go through all of them, but for what it's worth, let's have a look at maybe the lyre. A sansula. Maybe put a touch of aura, some veil. Gives you a lovely soft pad underneath it. I'm going to bring it a little closer to the front. That's lovely, really nice. How about a small kalimba? Now, a kalimba is a small thumb-plucked African instrument with small metal prongs, if you like. Quite a percussive sound. Got some lovely layers there too, from velocity layers, from soft. Now you'll hear me smash the keyboard. The Tempura is a well-known, you'll recognize this sound from the world of Zen-like or meditative sounds. To me, that's the sound of India. And hang around because I used that sound in my composition. I'll show you that a little bit later on. Oh, and of course, this is a new addition that Fluffy Audio have just added. It's a classical guitar. I've also used this in my composition, so hang around for that too. That is really, really nice. That's lovely. Okay, so let's have a listen to maybe some ceremonial stuff. So ceremonial meditation are really big on the big Tibetan bells. I'm just going to turn my mic off and I'll let you just sit with it. What's actually nice if you experiment with these is finding the ones that can harmonize. Sometimes that can be a little bit, discordant, but I reckon if you get the right ones. There's a G and a D. They're a fifth apart. Now, I reckon you could easily just record some bells for 30 minutes, record it, put it on your iPhone, and you can go to sleep every night. You will sleep like a baby. Different types of bells are available. This is the medium. And they ring for ages. They're gorgeous. Wonder what it's like if we put a little aura on it. The aura almost sounds choral, like a choir, do you think? That's nice. Maybe a smaller one. What does the smaller Tibetan bell sound like? Now, with a library such as this, because it's so ambient and harmonic, you must rely on great sampling. And I think the guys at Fluffy Audio have done that. There's a lot of detail, nuance. They haven't cut off their samples. They let them ring out to give you the full option to play with, which I think is great. The last one I'll show in this section, Tibetan finger cymbals. Again, beautiful high frequencies. Now, what I probably should have shown you, I'll just quickly return back to the Tibetan bell. We've been playing with the hits. The rubbing as the name suggests, is a bell where the player has got, I think they use a leather wrapped wooden stick to rub the bell. Creating a lovely, deep, resonant frequency. Now, I'll give you a quick trick that I love exploring with. This takes advantage of the features of contact. Here's your note. This one's a lovely resonant C. Go up to your contact. I don't know if you know this, but you can tune up or down. Now, if I take that note, oh, that's down now 6 semitones. That's crazy deep. If I take it down to 12, that's a full octave. Can you guys hear that? That's really sub. So you can stretch the samples. I'll just return it back to the normal one. Gorgeous, love it. Okay, shall we have a quick look at the other categories? We had a look at some ceremonial bells. Meditation. This is where the classic crystal bowls and the peaceful pads. There's some tongue drums, some tubular chimes. Let's have a quick listen to crystal bowls. Yes, the lovely crystal bowls. Now let's go down a register. Again, giving a bit of a strike. Let's randomly add a bit of veil, bit of aura. I'm going to choose an old music box. Nice, really nice. Energy chimes. What are energy chimes all about, I wonder? Yep, of course. Always the feeling of wind through the Tibetan mountains. There are also in this section a series of pads. Pads are lovely for holding that resonant sound. Almost sounds like a deep Buddhist choir, doesn't it? Again, likewise, you can add some veil if you want. How about a peaceful pad? Why don't we load up some koshi chimes at the same time? Hey, that's cool. Crystal bowls on top, perhaps? There's a Shiva pad. Let's just mute the crystal bowls this time. You can hold those notes for an eternity and they will look after you. Beautiful stuff indeed. And let's round out this section with a little bit of three-tongue drum. Now the tongue drum, very familiar sound, beautiful. And the tubular chimes. Again, it always reminds me, I've actually been through Tibet. I beg your pardon, not Tibet, through Nepal, but we got close to the Tibetan border and there's a lot of Tibetan monks and you'd hear that sound everywhere as you walk into some of the temples. Spinning wheels, you might recognise the image of the prayer wheels, as the Buddhist monks spin the wheels in a certain direction. You'd hear the chimes, because it got awfully windy up that way. Or of course the tubular chimes just as individual notes. Very elegant, very delicate, very well sampled. And of course, no Zen Garden library worth its salt would be complete without the percussion. So let's have a quick look. Angelic glockenspiel, this is gorgeous. You can almost see the wizards flying by. And of course, gongs, a must-have. So in addition to the hits, there are the rolls, building into crescendo, which you can control with the dampen to taper out. It's like a filter. And also the rubbing technique that I spoke of earlier. Ooh, didn't expect that. Oh, check that out. Hey, horror fans, there's your creepy ghost coming through the door. Oh, here's a fun trick. Let's try and play with the contact tune. I'm going to try and detune this to about 8 semitones. Oh yeah. Let's go to the full 12, a full octave lower. Oh, you could have some fun with that. Freak your little sister out when she's trying to go to sleep at night. No, don't do that. Gorgeous. Let's return back to the normal tuning. A handpan in D minor. Beautiful sound. There's percussion, of course. We need percussion in there. Now, this percussion is mapped across the keyboard from the mapped area you can see here. Some low bass drum sounds. As you can tell, I'm no finger drummer. Taiko drums are plenty. I use this also in my compositions, so hang around for that. Gorgeous, really nice. Let's round it out with some vibraphone, another beautiful sound. Wind chimes, always welcome. So various wind chime recordings mapped across the keyboard. Glissandi going up and down. Gorgeous stuff indeed. So now let's turn our attention to the vocals, what I would say is arguably, possibly the stars of the show, if you like. So this part of the library has a number of legatos from two singers, Aline and Sylvia, as well as a number of phrases, and there's a drone in there as well. So the very first one is called Aline Legato. It's got a mod wheel. So let's have a listen to that. Really nice. Very nice. Nice legato. It's the sort of legato that you can't race, I don't think. You wouldn't want to play it too fast of transition. Doesn't do a bad job though. But at a normal, steady pace, which is in character, of course, with the Zen ethos. Now, its companion is the Aline legatos. So let's have a listen to that one. Is that the same? What I'm going to do, I'm going to assign the dampen wheel to the mod wheel, or the dampen control rather. So it allows you to effectively filter in and out, which can be helpful. As always, you have the aura and the veil, which you could probably use quite sparingly, I think, with voices, but it can work. Sul Ponticello strings adds a nice colour. Adds a nice bit of colour, beautiful. You have female humming. Now this is a sustain, it's not a legato. Really lovely. Oh, that's very nice. Nice indeed. Now, the drone is another lovely piece. This is the male voice. I think, did we touch it a little earlier? Listen to that. That's a gorgeous, deep, resonant drone. Again, likewise, I love playing with the veil. Adds a bit of colour and depth to it. Let's try the bell tree. I could listen to that for an eternity. That is gorgeous, gorgeous. Now, the other female vocalist after Lynn is Sylvia. So she too has her own patch and a different flavoured, or different coloured voice perhaps. Now, I'm going to set it up with the mod wheel on the dampen. I quite like that. Really nice. Holding down the note, it's not an infinite loop, which is nice. It's about the length of a normal female breath you would expect. The natural decay. A very nice legato too. Sounds very, very natural. Moving on from that part, then we can have a whole series of phrases. Now, these are recorded in different keys, and this one's A pentatonic, and it's clocked at about 90 beats per minute, which means that you can keep, it's suitable for a piece of music that's roughly about 90 beats per minute. You can have the sync option, and if you press sync, it will sync to the time beats per minute in your DAW. And so that means there must be an element of time stretching a little bit. But I would imagine if you tried to use sync in a piece that was, say 60 beats per minute, and this was actually recorded at 90, it might sound a little bit wonky. So if you keep within those rules and boundaries. Gorgeous voices. Now, there is a transpose function, which means they can shift or pitch shift the samples up and down. Again, you wouldn't want to go too crazy. So if we were to take it up maybe a couple of semitones, down from the original, maybe down 3 semitones. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I like that. That's quite natural. But returning back to the original A. Now, what I found too working with phrases is that the beautiful thing about the Zen library is that many of the instruments, not all, but many of the instruments are quite ornamental, so they don't get in the road. So once you lay down some basic chords or a drone, as was the case in my particular composition, which we'll turn to shortly, a lot of the phrases just naturally slot in. They're very well designed such that they are complementary to each other. That's a good way of putting it. So it didn't really matter what you were playing. You would end up with something that felt somewhat natural relative to what you were doing. So for example, let's just say we were doing a peaceful pad down here. So I'll play that with the left hand. And I'll just ad-lib. Actually, let's keep it. I'll do it A major. There's an A. So this is A pentatonic minor. I'll just put some phrases over the top. Works beautifully. I'm sure you agree. Really nice. Okay, so let's go back to our vocals. So there's one phrases. I'll give you a quick flavour of, here's some C major phrases with Sylvia's voice. That's a softer tone, isn't it? A little more subdued. Two phrases at once. Beautiful stuff. The polywords is a really quite interesting one. It's a series of phrases of set words, but you can change the pitch by selecting the MIDI key so it completes the phrase. So for example, let's just take the straight C note. Once more. Now, if I play a G above it, a beautiful harmony, but you can move around the keyboard and it will still complete the phrase while changing the pitch. So if you lift your fingers up, it registers as a new phrase. But if you legato it, that's nice. That's really lovely. And there's some words with Sylvia's voice. So there you have it. That's a really quite lovely vocal set of phrases and patches there. It's far better than I originally gave it credit for when I started playing with it. But again, playing with various instruments, I think you'll find that these phrases, the poly words, the different O's and R's will just smooth really lovely in. They blend very, very well. And finally, let's have a quick look at the winds and breath section over here. The classic duruk of Armenian or Middle Eastern origin, as I understand it. A lovely breathy sound. That's not bad. Quick legato between the two. A little bit of an ornamental, but I know here there's some ornamentals built in that could do it far more authentically than what I just tried to do manually. There you go, little trills. And an alternative legato. That's really, really nice. A Romanian caval. No, I don't know what it is. I really don't. But it sounds familiar. A flute. A wooden flute, perhaps. With sustain, if you don't want the legato. But interesting, you also got a staccato feature. Beautiful. A small zun. I assume I've pronounced that correctly. Almost sounds a bit like a panpipe, perhaps, when air's been passed across an opening. And they've also got some phrases in there. Nice. And to round it out, a Turkish kaval. Again, with an alternative legato. And the sustain. Gorgeous, gorgeous stuff. Some really lovely, rich, breathy sounds, which is a hallmark of meditative Zen-like music. So that wraps up our walkthrough of the instruments and all the different patches that are available. Now it's time to show you what it can do in a composition setting. So here is a short composition I used using exclusively nothing but Zen Garden. Let's come back after that and I'll walk you through my thought process and how I put it together. Okay, so let's dive right in and check out what's going on under the hood with this piece. The whole piece, as you can tell, is anchored in a drone on the note D. Now, drones play a very pivotal role in this kind of music. Traditional practitioners of the spiritual tradition of meditation have said that the Om acts as like an anchoring of the soul and allows them to center with God. So the actual role of that Om plays a really significant role. And this library allows you to generate some lovely drone sounds. And I've chosen this one called Om Drone. Now, at its lowest, that's cool. Really deep resonant. A little too deep for what I wanted. I just went up an octave. Every 4 bars. Kick it out with a bit more Om. Of course, what has to follow? A little bit of rhythm with some taiko drums. Nothing too sophisticated, just an emphasis on the first beat. Add in a little bit of clack stick. And that is your entire basis of the track. It is a drone. It does not vary. It stays the same as it is intended. Cool. Then the next part, let's bring out the star of the show. And the star of the show is the female lead vocals. So let's switch off the other two for the moment. The lead vocal I chose were from a series of phrases in D minor, because we're anchored in the key of D on that note of D. And the phrases, well, beautifully recorded, beautiful voice with a bit of long haul reverb. Now, there's a whole heap of phrases mapped out across the keyboard here. The thing that you have to play with the phrases is there's no relationship, as far as I can discern, between where the phrases are mapped out on the keyboard and their pitch. So unlike a piano, which obviously the lower down the keyboard you go, the lower the note, the higher you go, the higher the note, there is no such relationship with phrases. There's one down the bottom, up here, and that's low. So there's no correlation between the pitch. So it's really just a matter of playing around, dare I say it, almost in a random fashion to try and piece together a little bit of a story. My approach was really centered on actually giving the space to breathe a little bit too, because you like to want to have that drone that, well, drones on. I use the full phrase in this particular case. Take a breath. So again, giving a bit of space, there's 2 bars to have a rest. So not always using the full phrase. I cut that one off short, but thankfully the last part of the previous F#3 phrase blended quite nicely with the G3 that follows. And that pieced together that whole story. What came next? I think the next part that I was quite happy with in the end was the classical guitar. So the classical guitar, beautiful sound. Now, I am actually a guitarist by trade, but we're in the world of MIDI at the moment, and my piano keyboard skills are not that great. So I actually employed a little bit of a trick. You may care to play with something like this. I used a plugin called Scaler. Now, for those who aren't familiar with Scaler, let's just call it a MIDI generation tool. It's fantastic. You can choose from a whole heap of different scales that you can choose from. I happened to land on one called the D Ukrainian Dorian scale. I've never heard of it before, but I found all the different chords in there and I pieced them together, and it generates a whole heap of MIDI if you give it the chance to say on melody, and you end up with this sort of thing. Oops, let's just have a look. D minor to the E major, F major into a G sharp diminished. Cool. Once you've done that, you can then drag that MIDI out and you drop it into your DAW, and I did just that, and I put it against the classical guitar. So in playing that, let's just give that a chance to breathe. And with the D drone, it just seemed to fit nicely. All right, where to from there? We've now got our female vocal. What it was really left to do is to fill it out with some gongs and some Tibetan bells. So at the very start of the track, let's just take everything off and have a listen. A big rolling gong into a Tibetan bell in the rubbing mode. And of course, what piece of Zen-like music would be complete without a tempura? It's a lovely sound. The variation I chose here was just to control some of the automation here with the dampen. So I attached the mod wheel to the dampen wheel, and as it's playing, I'm just moving it up and down. So just gives you a slight cycling in and out to soften the sound. Put it all together. Oh yes, of course. Well, I was nearly finished and I thought, well, hey, I've chanced upon the Turkish kaval. It's a beautiful woodwind instrument from the Middle East. Has this sort of sound. Now, for those of you of a certain age, you'll recognise that sound from the likes of Peter Gabriel. At least it did for me. But I love that sound, so I had a bit of a play with it. I've got no idea how to play a Turkish kaval. So a lot of it is just me noodling around until I found some little incidental flourishes. That's all they really were. They were just incidental flourishes. So you get this kind of thing. Flourishes here with the kaval. And that's all it was. So we let that cycle around, we let the guitar do its thing, building that crescendo of the voices. Tempura to take us out as it fades off into the distance. Okay, so there you have it. There's the breakdown of my Zen Garden track. Okay, so let's move on over now. I'm going to give you some of my final thoughts on Zen Garden and we'll wrap up today's video. So to my final thoughts on Zen Garden. Zen Garden is a rich tapestry of tranquil soundscapes and evocative instruments. The Fluffy Audio team has brought together a comprehensive catalogue of instruments that represents a solid offering, giving you nearly everything you need to create the sounds of peace, tranquility and meditative ambience. But in many ways, I think that's underselling it. I can imagine it being perfect for quest-based video games and scenes in film with an ancient Asian or Buddhist aesthetic. Or of course, for providing music for the world of personal development and meditative practices. I'd also add that because the library has a sense of space in its instruments, I can imagine it offering some colour and textures in other musical genres too. The overall UI design is simple with relatively few controls, which makes it super easy and intuitive to use. The aura and veil features allow some subtle colours to be added that doesn't interfere with the main instrument or the patch in question. But for me, I think the outstanding feature of this library is the clarity and the quality of the samples themselves, not least in the vocal patches. There is a beautiful, crisp and pristine quality of the recordings as you would expect from a library of delicate and nuanced textures. All in all, Zen Garden is a beautiful offering in a small niche part of the virtual instrument universe. I wholly encourage you to explore it. And that's a wrap for our video today. As always, many thanks for spending some time with me today to explore Fluffy Audio's Zen Garden. On the way out, you can help the video by giving it a like to share the love with other musicians just like you and me. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell and you'll be fully armed at the forefront of the latest news and reviews in the world of virtual instruments. This has been Greg Revell signing off for the Sampleist team, and as always, wishing you all the best on your journey to find your sounds and find your soul. See you on the next one.